All right. Hi, Dan. How are you?
Douglas, thank you so much for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show. I was reading over your bio, and I think I got a lot of questions that I'll have to ask you about that. Okay, first of all, you're a brother, and you're a Marist brother. Is that correct?
Correct. I've been a Marist Brother for almost 30 years. Based here in New York at the moment. The Marist Brothers are an international order of teaching brothers. We're in 82 countries around the world. A lot of missionary work as well. A little over 200 years old. There are about 3,000 Marist Brothers around the world today, and we are joined by about 75,000 lay Marist colleagues who work with us in our mission of education, particularly for young people, those most in need.
Okay. So this is a Catholic organization?
Correct. We're an order of Catholic religious brothers. Yes.
Okay. What is the difference between a brother and a priest?
Well, a priest would be ordained for sacraments to do the sacraments of the Catholic Church, where brothers, similar to sisters in the Church, are founded for a mission. Our order was founded for the mission of education by Saint Marcelin Champagne about a little over 200 years ago. So we're not ordained. We do take vows, but our mission is, not to perform sacraments, but more in our case, to work with young people, particularly those most in need.
Would this be comparable to the difference between a doctor and like a nurse practitioner?
Um, Not really. I mean, they're really two different vocations in the church.
Oh, I see. Okay.
As I said, like each religious order in the church really founded by their founders for a particular need. Some sisters groups that you may be familiar with, were founded for education. Some were founded for hospitals or orphanages. It would be similar for the brothers' vocation in the church as well.
So you've been doing this for 28 years, yeah? Oh, a long time. A career lifer, I think, in this, yeah?
It's been a privilege. It's been a great journey so far.
Tell me a little bit about your mission work. What does that entail?
Well, worldwide, right now we're very extensively involved with a lot of refugees around the world. Given the refugee crisis that exists, we have numerous refugee projects. We have one here in the United States on the border in El Paso, and many other countries as well. We do a lot of work in Africa and Asia, in a lot of the developing countries, primarily with young people, focused on young people, mostly in education. But we do have orphanages and some other works with the United Nations in regards to the rights of children around the world. But most of our projects are involved somehow with young people, whether it be directly involved in education or retreats or outreach. Like here in the United States, for example, we have a number of camps in the summertime for children that are handicapped, underprivileged, children with cancer, children that are deaf. So an outreach to children that are marginalized in many ways, as well as a number of high schools here in the United States and some other ministries.
Okay, so when you go overseas, are you helping with, I don't know, I'm getting a picture in my head of like the Peace Corps. Are you helping them to build their communities, like literally from, labor? Or is it more of a spiritual guidance thing that you're
Uh,
doing?
Probably more on the spiritual end. We do have some projects that certainly involve building and helping, villages that would be poor. But most of our work would be really, in terms of schools, in terms of running schools or other types of social services that would really directly benefit and help young people, particularly in faith formation and developing them into for education and for future, helping them move along in life.
Do you find any resistance from people in non-Christian countries to your work at all?
As a matter of fact, not really. I mean, I'll give you an example. One of our projects at the moment is in Aleppo, Syria. We have which is in the middle of a war zone. We have a community there called the Blue Marists, who are it's made up of Muslims and Catholics working side by side. trying to help so many of the young people in particular and families that are devastated by the ongoing war. And now with COVID, there's so much other difficulties as well in the world. So I think when you get to the poorest of poor places, people are very grateful for whatever help that they can receive, regardless of who it's coming from. And very often on the ground level, so many organizations, thankfully, do work together very well.
I'm really happy to hear that once it comes down to just people in need, we can put aside religious conflicts, political conflicts. It makes me have a certain level of hope for humanity and human nature.
Well, that's been one of the my most recent book, Never Too Young to Change the World. It's really a sharing of about 30 years of stories of young people, and it's very much to that point that I truly believe that young people are our greatest hope in this world. I think so many of the young people today, come with a fresh vision of not seeing, not knowing divisions, not knowing, not worried about things like, they're so open to diversity, so open and welcoming in so many ways. And hopefully we'll do a much better job in the future of working together to bring about hope and peace that this world so much needs at the moment.
How has your work been affected by COVID? Are you having to not travel at this point?
Travel has been very limited. Much of our work has, gone to, like every place else in the world, I guess, Zoom and other online communications. Most of our schools are doing like a hybrid method, model at this point, as most are around the world. So some of the students come in on different days, and the others are doing it remotely. So it is affecting, a lot of the ministries at the moment. It's difficult. I mean, particularly some of the things we do, like on the borders or with refugees. Those type of projects are very, very much affected. So we're all kind of hoping that this vaccine in 2021 will bring some type of a return to normality, so that we can get back to trying to do as much as we can.
You mentioned that you go into some countries that are considered hotspots with wars and things going on. You ever have any close calls, any bombs, anything near you, any danger?
Personally, myself personally, I've been pretty blessed that I haven't had any major. Within the Marist Brothers, we've had 208 martyred brothers over the course of our history. Like we had brothers in Rwanda during the genocide. We've had brothers killed in many countries because of difficult situations. So sadly, it does happen. I know of brothers. I know many brothers who were stationed in many very, very difficult situations, and I know brothers I know brothers who were martyred, who were killed, being in situations like Rwanda, for example. Very sadly.
I'm working a little bit backwards here, but what made you want to do this with your life?
Well, I was blessed in high school to have gone to a Marist Brother school in New York. And certainly at the time, it was not what I was thinking I would have ended up doing. But, during those years, many of my best teachers and coaches and mentors were brothers who, as my life journeyed on and I went to college, I actually went to college in Europe and Ireland. I stayed very connected to them, and I would come back during summer times and connect with them. I worked a number of summers at one of the camps I had mentioned earlier up in upstate New York, the Marist Brothers Center in Esopus, and those camps really inspired me. It was a lot of camps working with handicapped children and young people during my college years, and it was just, I got more out of it than I ever gave, and it was little by little, it just attracted me that I wanted to do more of that with my life. And eventually, little by little, it just it led me back to initially working with the brothers in one of their schools. And as I got to know more about them and come to work with them, that was almost 30 years ago, and the rest is history, as they say. So it was God works in slow ways sometimes, but it's always been there, and I wouldn't change a thing going backwards.
Okay, let's just touch on your book real quick again. Never Too Young to Change the World. When did this release?
So it released pretty recently, the beginning of the month in December. And as I said, it's a collection of stories of the last 30 years of young people that I've personally worked with who have really done some pretty remarkable things with their lives. And even at very young ages, while some of them were in high school and into college, did remarkable things and ways of changing the world that they lived in. And for me, I always say, to change the world, it's about doing it one person at a time. And little impacts turn into very big impacts, and I've seen that time and time again with young people. And I think sometimes in our world, young people may not always get the best of rap. I mean, sometimes you listen to the news and it's usually pretty bad on TV. But I think we need to know more stories of how many great young people there are out there that are doing really amazing things with their life and who do want to make a difference and are making a difference.
Can you give us one quick example of one of the stories in the book?
Sure. A former student of mine who I knew since she was a freshman in high school in New Jersey. When she graduated high school in 2008, and even in high school, she had done some pretty remarkable things, working with the homeless and some outreach to poor people in some of the activities that she was involved with us when she was in high school. She stayed very active in college. She went to Villanova, stayed very active in our young adult program. And when she was finishing Villanova, we had a conversation, and she said that she, while she could have easily gotten many jobs and make a lot of money, her interest wasn't in that. She wanted to do some missionary work with us. So she went to Senegal, West Africa for 2 years and volunteered and lived with our community of sisters in West Africa. And the village she was living in, I was talking to her on Skype actually about a month after she arrived there. And I said, how's it going? And, what's the biggest challenges? And she said, well, one of the things is that most of the children here or people in the village don't know how to read. And I go, why not? And she said, most of them haven't seen a book. She said, I'm going to change that. And very quickly, she wrote for some grants. She got some money, and she literally physically built herself a children's library for that village. She was at the time, I think she was probably 23 years of age. And I look at it now and I say, here's a kid at 23 that has given these children, in a small village somewhere remotely on the other side of the world, possibilities for hope and a future and education by teaching them to read. Like I said, she was only 23 at the time. She's come back and since then doing great things and continues to do inspiring things with her life today in Appalachia. She's living and working in Kentucky. So there's a lot of stories like that, of just personal stories of young people that have not been afraid to make a difference and to not allow their youth or their age to stop them from really doing some pretty remarkable things.
Well, that's great. That's a very nice story to hear. And with that, we are out of time, unfortunately, for this interview. Do you have a website that you want to give out that people can come check out what you're doing in your book?
The website is brdanbooks.com, brotherdanbooks.com, brdanbooks.com. Books and some other information is on there if anyone would like to come and see it.
Great. Well, Brother Dan, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your stories and your life with us. And best of luck.
It's been a privilege.